course there's going to be a video from the bench this summer also, even though it looked a little bit worrying when they came to that because of the very, very unpredictable weather this summer. But who can resist this sundown? Look at this. Isn't it beautiful? So with this beautiful sunset, I'm going to do a response to a thread that the Digital Gramophone, aka John, had been starting, where we're supposed to show records by an artist that we actually only need one album with. An artist that we felt like, well, this album was good, but unfortunately the rest of this artist's discography pretty much sucks, or I have no need for. I can do another version of this if there are some windy noises in the back. I hope you forgive me with that. There are other versions I can do it, and one of these days I might do a version where I show artists where I only need a compilation of, which I assume might be even worse than just having one album, but that album only be a compilation of the artist's best songs or greatest hits. But now it is artists that I only need one album with, and many of them are on CDs because many of them are from the 90s. But let's start with an artist that passed away pretty recently. This is an album connected to my childhood, which is one of the reasons why I have it, and it actually is a good album. But I also normally have those kind of habits to pick up albums with big artists that I feel like only I like, because this artist's normal fan base likes this artist's older stuff because it might be rocky or something like that. And this is typical case, because this artist normally I don't need. I'm talking about Jeff Beck. This artist, Jeff Beck, is not something that I'm usually is all that interested in. It's not my kind of music. But when I was young, one of the songs on a radio show that made me discover pop music back in 1985 was songs from Jeff Beck's album Flash. Escape, People Get Ready, and Gets Us All in the End. I'm not going to say that this album is perfect, but it is definitely the best thing I've heard from Jeff Beck ever. So I feel like I won't need any more of his rockier earlier stuff. This is all Jeff Beck I actually need, but it is a great one. I assume that for many of you who are rock fans, many of these names might be slightly controversial, but I guess that is part of the charm, I guess. The same goes with this artist, yet another artist that many people likes, but they like the older stuff. And this is the only album with this artist that I like. In this case, I don't know, maybe he has done more 80s stuff that I haven't heard that sounds pretty much alike, I don't know. But I feel like this might be the only one I need. I might be wrong, but I'm talking about Santana and his album Beyond Appearances, also from 1985. Santana with a very much 80s disco beat, really funky soul with his guitar, and it sounds really smooth, and it's really great production, 80s production. As I like the 80s and I like 80s soul and 80s funk, this is right up my alley. This is an artist that I don't dislike in any form, but I still feel like this might be the only album I need. I might consider one of these days buy maybe singles from her, because she has done some stuff in the past. It is a she. But we're talking albums here, full albums, and then I guess it's another story. I still feel like the only album by Dusty Springfield I need is this one, Reputation. A couple of songs produced by Pet Shop Boys, which might be one of the reasons, of course. As I said, I'm nothing against her 60s stuff. There are some great stuff that I might consider finding on the single, but I don't feel like it might last for an entire album. So I feel most likely that this will be the only Dusty Springfield album I will have. Now, going to CDs. As you well know, I'm no fan of hard rock or anything, heavy metal. But there are always exceptions. As I said, there's always exceptions in every genre, almost anyway. I explained before that my exceptions when it comes to heavy metal, I do like, depending on who you ask, whether it counts as heavy metal. I almost been told that Deep Purple counts as heavy metal. I like the band, Winnipeg band Fozzy, and so on. I like Gary Moore's 80s metal stuff. But this is a great album, actually. I'm talking about Scorpions' Crazy World from '91. This is the album that contains Send Me an Angel and Window Change and so on. Normally, I don't think the Scorpions is really my cup of tea. And some of the bands they released previously, like Holiday and Still Loving You, is sleeping pills for me. But I do like Send Me an Angel a lot. And I also like Window Change. I like it at least by the time. I get a little bit tired of it because it's played way too much. But it's a great song nonetheless. So I feel like this is the only Scorpions album I really need. And while we're at the harder genre, there are some songs from the 80s with Bon Jovi that I think is good. Lay Your Hands on Me is a good one. I learned actually to like Living on a Prayer. But I feel like this will most likely be the only Bon Jovi album I need. The 1992's Keep the Faith. This is more, maybe a little bit more adult rock style in it than just pure sing-along heavy metal, I might call it, what they did before. But I think that the title track is a really, really great one. I like those ballads, In These Arms and Better Roses and so on. So this definitely might be the only Bon Jovi album I need. Sticking with the 90s but leaving the metal genre. This is an Australian band that many might consider very commercial or stuff like that. But when they arrived, I thought they actually were pretty good. I like the singles anyway. I'm talking about Australian band Savage Garden. Then the songs that came in 1999, with some exceptions, were very, very uninteresting. The melodies went in here and out here. But I still can listen to their first album that was really good, their debut. To the Moon and Back is really, really great, and I think that Truly Metal Deeply is a really great ballad. So this definitely might be the only Savage Garden album I need. I had the follow-up album Affirmation, I think it's called, before, but I thought, with some exceptions, that it was very, very pale and very, very a little too boy bandish maybe. But this is a great debut album, so this might be the only Savage Garden I need. Coming to an artist that I also don't dislike, but as a solo artist I feel like this is definitely the best album she has done. Talking about Annie Lennox. I have her of course as part of the Eurythmics, but we're talking solo stuff here, and then there are only this album I need. She has done Medusa and other stuff that I thought was not that interesting. But when I heard this, I'm not going to say it was the best album, better than most of Eurythmics' album, but it was actually far better than I could expect, and it's a really great album. So this is the only album by Annie Lennox I need. Her solo debut, Diva, with Walking on Broken Glass and Why and Precious and so on. So this is a really good album, and the only Annie Lennox album I really need, with the exception of the Eurythmics album. We have a band that I'm during the 90s felt like they had a great beat, but the songs were way too repetitive. I felt like after a minute that, come on, at least give me some change of tone or something like that, that you can hear that the song developed, but it sounded way too repetitive and the same all over and over again. I'm talking about Daft Punk. So, okay, Around the World is a pretty good song, but otherwise they had great beats, as I said, but the songs tended to sound very much alike. But when this album arrived, they showed that they actually could make melodies also. And this is by far the best album that Daft Punk released. So Random Access Memories is the only Daft Punk album I need. Get Lucky and Lose Yourself to Dance and so on. This is a really cool and funky album, and way far from the repetitive stale sound that they had before. But this is a really funky one. So this is the only Daft Punk album I need. And finally, this might be a little on the edge, because this is an album that I don't care for all that much, but I have it for one song only, and that is the reason why I have this album. And everybody who is a fan of this band right now might consider to, for a little bit anyway, close your ears, because I'm going to say, might say a little bit harsh stuff about this band, because I think that one of the most boring bands is Pink Floyd. I have a hard time listening to Pink Floyd in any long doses. Okay, Another Brick in the Wall was okay song, but entire album by them, hell no. And this, as I said, is not an album that I really am a fan of. But when I heard the song High Hopes back in 1994, I was knocked to the floor. This was amazing. Unfortunately, that didn't change my opinions about their other stuff, but I bought later on this album, The Division Bell, only for High Hopes, which means that when I find the single High Hopes, this might hit the door in a future culling. But for now, this is the only Pink Floyd album I want, and it's the only one I need for the moment. So now you can start listening now. So with that, I've given some examples of artists that I only need one album with. Normally I don't have that much problem, because when I find an artist that I like, I get the feeling that the following albums will be most likely really good ones. And I jump on trains easy. When I'm starting to like something, I like it. Maybe I'm not that, I don't have that tough demands with some artists. But of course, as you've seen, there are exceptions. There are stuff that I really sometimes feel like, okay, it wasn't as good as I thought. And there may be more examples. The Ark, Swedish group The Ark, for instance. I have one album by them, and that's the only one I need. Their debut. The other stuff was definitely not interesting. Another Swedish example is Bodies Without Organs, BWO. Great first album, then they became, it sounded very much synth-popish. Then after that they became ordinary pop band for mainstream, and I lost my interest for them. So, examples. So with this beautiful picture of the sunset, I hope leave you for now, and hope that you have enjoyed this, John, and that you have a really nice time, and the rest of you also have a really nice time, and take care.